Welcome to AutoTruth, revealing the road ahead.
All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're taking a close look at one of the most polarizing, debated, and frankly fascinating cars on the road right now, the 2024 and 2025 Tesla Model 3. Specifically, we're talking about that massive refresh everyone calls the Highland. So, is it this futuristic marvel that totally redefines transportation, or is it just a frustrating step backwards in basic usability? Well, we're going to sift through the hard data, the industry reports, and the real-world experiences from actual owners to figure out exactly what's going on behind the wheel. Okay, here's the game plan for today. We'll start by unpacking the Model 3 paradox, then look at the physical reality in build quality and quirks. After that, we'll dive into the stalkless controversy, compare Tesla Vision against traditional sensors, and finally wrap everything up with software, recalls, and safety.
All right, Section 1, the Model 3 paradox.
So I want to pose this exact question to you right off the bat. Why would 90% of owners actually recommend a car that official consumer ratings flag with below average reliability? I mean, it sounds completely contradictory, right? It just doesn't make sense on paper.
But look at this, 90%. According to recent guides pulling from Kelley Blue Book reviews, an overwhelming 90% of owners highly recommend this vehicle. So despite what critics or formalized scoring systems are putting out there, the people who actually buy this car, charge it, and drive it every single day are overwhelmingly thrilled with their purchase. You can see that paradox perfectly right here. Over on the left, formal reliability ratings ding the car, often slapping it with a below-average score. But on the right, it's got a massive 4.6 out of 5 rating from owners. The data reveals that those formal ratings are usually penalizing the car for its body hardware. You know, misaligned trim, squeaks, or minor glitches. Yet the buyers absolutely love the core driving experience, the range, and the tech. They just completely forgive those minor quirks because the drive itself is literally that good.
Moving on to Section 2, build quality and quirks.
So looking at the data from early owner reports compiled by Recharged, the car definitely still has a few growing pains. Some drivers are reporting high-speed steering vibration, which usually pops up when you push past 70 miles per hour. There are also mentions of minor water drops getting past the door seals in heavy rain or occasional condensation popping up inside the headlights. And because the cabin is otherwise whisper quiet, some drivers have noticed these really annoying interior rattles up in the headliners and the door panels. But here's the real takeaway if you're a prospective buyer. Rest assured, the Highland's electric powertrain, that massive battery in the motors, is practically bulletproof at this point in Tesla's history. You are highly unlikely to find yourself stranded on the side of the road. It's just those minor defects, those body hardware growing pains, that might require a somewhat frustrating trip to the service center just to get a panel relined or a weather seal replaced.
All right, Section 3, the stalkless controversy. To really understand the frustration some users are feeling, check out this vivid story from a driver on Reddit trying to navigate European roundabouts. They noted that when you're turning the wheel, the new haptic turn signal buttons end up down at the 4 or 5 o'clock position, basically upside down. They found that trying to hit those moving buttons with their right hand while actively steering was, in their words, distracting and daft. And honestly, that's a very real muscle memory challenge when you're right in the middle of a complex maneuver.
But flip the coin over and you get a completely different story. Look at this quote from another owner showing a super rapid adjustment. They said they adapted to the stockless design in literally just 2 turns, noting they barely even had to move their thumb to indicate. For a lot of drivers, especially if you're just doing standard highway commuting, this minimalist wheel becomes second nature almost instantly.
This brilliantly illustrates just how radical of a change we're talking about here. We've gone from the old system of physical, tactile stalks that you just flick without even looking, to the new Highland system. Now you've got haptic buttons on the steering wheel for your signals, and for gears, you're actually swiping up and down on the edge of the center touchscreen. Just imagine doing a tight 3-point turn. Instead of flicking a lever back and forth, you're swiping a screen like you're browsing a dating app just to get out of a driveway. It is undeniably futuristic, for sure, but it requires a fundamental rewiring of how you interact with a vehicle.
Next up, Section 4, Tesla Vision versus sensors. The sources show a pretty stark difference in hardware capability here. Older cars used ultrasonic sensors, or USS, which gave you distance accuracy down to the inch. You knew exactly how far you were from a wall. But the new Highland relies entirely on Tesla Vision, which is a camera-only system that calculates distance visually. And while the software is incredibly advanced, owners are reporting that its distance estimation can sometimes be off by up to 2 feet, especially when it's judging the space directly in front of your bumper. Drivers dealing with tight European or city garages have detailed some very specific headaches because of this. They report totally inconsistent distance warnings. Sometimes the car is absolutely screaming that you're about to hit a wall when you actually have plenty of room. There's also a highly documented risk of scratching the front right wheel on low curbs because the cameras just can't always see those blind corners. Ultimately, owners advise that the system is a helpful guide, but you really have to rely heavily on your own eyes and mirrors. Though, to be fair, they also say the Highland's outstanding, high-resolution backup camera heavily mitigates a lot of those issues when you're reversing.
And finally, let's dive into Section 5, Software, Recalls, and Safety.
Just notice how this data breaks down the recall process for Tesla. It's an entirely different world compared to legacy automakers. Whether it's a potential loss of power steering assist, a tire pressure monitoring failure, or even regulatory issues with autopilot driver engagement, just look at how it's fixed. Over-the-air updates. You aren't taking the car to a dealership and sitting in a waiting room. It simply downloads a software patch overnight while it's parked in your driveway.
This really highlights the immense, industry-altering power of Tesla's software. Recently, regulators flagged a glitch that was causing a rear-view camera to lag. Tesla fixed 219,000 cars almost instantly over the air. But it's not just about fixing bugs, right? The car actively upgrades over time. For example, regulatory documents show an upcoming update will just unlock adaptive matrix headlight functionality for drivers in Europe. Like magic! And on the safety front, the advanced driver assistance systems on the Model Y and Model 3 just absolutely crushed the brand new crash tests by the NHTSA, becoming the very first vehicles to ever pass perfectly.
Which actually brings up a fascinating industry debate over language. Elon Musk recently stated regarding these digital patches, the terminology is outdated and inaccurate. This is a tiny over-the-air software update. And there's a pretty valid argument being made there. Labeling a 5-minute digital download a recall, which is the exact same word we use for a catastrophic mechanical failure requiring a dealership engine swap, definitely creates some public confusion about the actual safety of the vehicle.
So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? If you're a prospective buyer, you really need to understand that the Model 3 Highland is a brilliant technological marvel. The electric efficiency, those unparalleled safety scores, the continuous software upgrades, they're entirely unmatched in the industry right now. But it absolutely requires a willingness on your part to adapt to a completely new way of driving. Decades of your own muscle memory for turn signals, gear shifters, and trusting parking sensors, that's all going to need to be rewired.
Which leaves us with one final thought. Are the cutting-edge tech, the overnight upgrades, and those top-tier safety marks worth the steep learning curve and the occasional quirky build issue? That's the ultimate question you'll have to weigh for yourself before you take delivery. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer into the Model 3 Highland. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you on the next one.